Hello all, and welcome to Movie Bears Podcast TV, or as we like to call it for short, MBP TV. No, we're not talking about MacBook Pros.
Oh, too bad. I think this is the wrong podcast for me then.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, on this podcast, we actually talk about awesome TV awesomeness. That's a whole lot of awesome
It is.
in one sentence. But you know what? Everything is awesome, so it works, right?
Oh, no.
With me, as usual, are my wonderful, wonderful co-hosts, Casey Scott. Welcome, Casey.
Thank you. Wow. It's it's always fun to do this again.
Definitely. We've been gone for a couple of weeks. Crazy scheduleness has been crazy.
Yeah.
Yes. But it's good to be back. And of course with us as well is Stephen Heslin. Welcome back.
Hi, everyone. It's good to be back. I think there's lots of catching up to do.
Most definitely. So, guys, I gotta tell you, of course, we're talking about Game of Thrones, but I have officially renamed our Me TV segment because there's a channel called Me TV, and I don't want us to get sued over copyright infringement.
Oh,
So,
Lord.
Are you ready for the reveal of the new name?
Sure.
Drum roll.
I love revealing things.
The new name is MeTime TV.
Oh, I like that better. Yeah, I like that better.
It kind of has like a connotation of being all by yourself and watching what you want to fucking watch.
Which is usually what I do. Yeah.
Instead of being chained to what everyone else is watching.
Right.
Totally.
It's true.
Yep. So we're going to be sharing with you, our wonderful listeners, a couple of shows that we're watching these days that have got our interest. Maybe it's stuff you've seen before. Maybe it's not. Maybe you'll check it out. Maybe we'll see. But first things first, guys, are you ready to talk about some mother effing Game of Thrones?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Wow, you sounded so hesitant, Casey. You're like,
I was like, okay, yeah. I know I'll get more excited about it after I hear you guys share your thoughts on it. For sure. I like hearing what you guys have to say about this show.
All right. Well, with that rousing yes from Casey Scott, let's talk about Game of Thrones. So I think the last time we discussed Game of Thrones was actually the season 5 premiere. And at this point, we're 4 episodes in, right? I think?
Yeah.
Something like that? Yeah.
Last week,
like
the one that the one 2 nights ago, or this past Sunday, was episode 4.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So we'll just say, guys, spoilers for all episodes of Game of Thrones that have come before and up to including Season 5, Episode 4, are officially fair game. We talked about the premiere. A lot has happened since the premiere. And the events kind of run together in my mind, to be kind of honest. It feels like it's one long narrative as opposed to like distinct episodes sometimes.
Yeah.
Steven, how are you finding this season for you? Has it been, pretty good or pretty meh, or what are your feelings?
I really like this season so far. I mean, it's definitely got. I think they've kind of gone into focus on specific storylines, which I really like. I mean, they, the previous seasons have sort of been all over the place, which isn't bad. I mean, every little, but this one I think they're kind of focusing on like 3 or 4 main storylines, which has been really nice. I think the more interesting one for me is the Cersei storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Having what the queen is dealing with, and having her son marry, and now being the queen mother and everything, and how she's dealing with that is very, very interesting. Also the storyline with what's her name, the Mother of Dragons?
Oh, Daenerys.
Daenerys, yeah, has been kind of boring, but I feel like an explosion, so I can't anticipate that explosion.
Right.
And this past episode was like, holy fuck, when will this show stop killing people that you care about?
Never.
It's just like you just start to care, and then they die, and it's like, oh
Yeah.
god. So I really like it. I think it's definitely pacing itself well. It's giving you a little bit and then slowing down, then giving you a little bit and then slowing down. So I think it's definitely keeping my interest.
Awesome. How about you, Casey?
I agree. Yeah, I mean, yeah. If I initially sounded like, okay, we'll talk about this, I think it was just because like, it's kind of still taking its time to weave its spell over me this season, which I think most of the seasons have been like. Like it takes some winding up to get to some good stuff, and we're getting to that good stuff, and you get the sense that is happening, and you get the idea of what the stakes are this season, where everything was kind of thrown up in the air at the end of last season, and we're just now getting a sense of what the directions are going to be. I've always been Team Cersei, even though she's because she's just an interesting, complex character. I mean, but I think she's gone a little too far with this whole religious zealot thing. But she's doing it for her own ends. You know who she reminds me of? She kind of reminds me of like a Republican who decides to side with the Tea Party because they're going to get votes, and and there's political power there. So she's making a wise political.
And then it's going to backfire.
Yeah, something bad's going to happen, obviously, because when they find out that her children are product of incest, I'm sure that's going to come up.
Yeah.
The Daenerys storyline continues to be a really interesting mirror of colonialism. It's like this lily white person comes in with their own set of values and tries to impose those values on an indigenous people, and of course it backfires. So watching that, I think it's really interesting that it's still basically it's a great colonialism parallel. And I know it's not going to go well, and I think it's funny that Tyrion is on his way, like, oh yeah, she has all this power, it's great, she has this great city. It's like, you have no idea, dude. Yeah, exactly. Like, you have no idea how it's backfiring. You're picking the wrong horse in this race, I think. Or maybe he'll be the savior and can work some magic or something. I'm not sure. But there are lots of little things that I'm liking. I loved the Sansa development, which apparently is not in the books. So,
interesting.
Yeah, so connecting her with the man who killed her brother and her mother is just like, oh my god. Yeah, that was kind of crazy, and I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes, especially because I think now she's going in interesting directions as a character. She's not just sitting idly by and being an idiot. I think she's gonna have to start playing the game, and Littlefinger's a good teacher for that. So, yeah. So those are my high points of the series so far that I'm really enjoying, are those storylines.
Yeah, you mentioned the thing with the the faith militant or whatever it's called, right? And that's
weird.
That's kind of interesting because a couple episodes ago we got that awesomely delightful scene where Cersei goes to see Queen Marjorie, right? And Marjorie is like almost like making fun of her, you know what I mean?
It's
She's like, oh, and by the way, I'm so behind on my court manners. What do we call you? Dowager Queen or Queen Mother?
I know. I heard Dowager, and I was like, yeah. I heard Dowager, and I was like, Maggie Smith. Like, the Dowager.
Yeah, right. I know, that was my first thought, too. I'm like, Dowager.
Like, ooh, I was like, ooh, bitch, you old. That's what she's trying to say.
But I was like, wow, Marjorie, like, you are brave, because do you really think that Cersei can't still make your life a living hell? Like, even though you're queen now, and even though you have Tommen in your pocket, like, bitch, you got to recognize, you know what I mean? Like, seriously. And so this episode, we see the fallout of that, right? Now Cersei has got the High Sparrow in her pocket. She's given him all this power, Now Marjorie's brother, ever the sword swallower, his actions have caught up to him, right?
Right.
And now Marjorie, even though she's the queen, she's in this position where her family is threatened. And, Casey, you talk about being Team Cersei. Cersei has become my new favorite, like, love-to-hate character. It used to be Joffrey.
Yeah.
Of course, Joffrey's dead. I've always thought Cersei was a see you next Tuesday. But now, in a way, I'm I almost pity Cersei.
I know,
almost
same
want
here.
her
It
to
was interesting
succeed.
how they did that.
Right?
Yeah.
But she's in a weird position because, like, there's things that you remember that she's horrible. Then it's like, she is a woman trying to develop some power, and she's felt wrong by her father, and now she's getting this power, and it's like, it's so complicated. Yeah, that's why I love her. I find it such an interesting character.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you, please, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say oh God, now I forgot. Oh God, we're horrible.
Spit it out. Figure it out.
Something I did like, actually.
Hold on, somebody continue.
Yeah, something that I did like is you mentioned this scene between Marjorie and Cersei. There's something that I was laughing hysterically at her basically telling her, like, oh my God, your son like banged me out so hard last night. It was like the best sex ever. And I was like, yeah, everyone loves to hear that. And she's just looking at her like, oh my God, I can't believe this broad stole my son's virginity, and now she's gonna have my son's shoulder, and it's gonna be horrible. But I still love Marjorie, but I think, yeah, she definitely overstepped her bounds because.
Well, I think she's coming up too. Exactly. She's coming up too quickly. She thinks she can outmaneuver Cersei, and it's like she's got a few years on her. She's got more tricks up her sleeve than you do.
Right, and she hasn't developed Tommen yet into developing any kind of balls. So
yeah.
So, that's the problem. It takes some time to develop this guy who had a relationship with his best relationship was with his cat, into like this king who can get what he wants. He doesn't know how to do that.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny. After Tommen couldn't get her brother out of prison, he's like, so are you coming back later? It's like, yeah, so we're gonna go later, right? And she's like, no, the wall is up. No sex until this happens. I'm just like, use that. If he is so enamored of you, use that to your advantage. I mean,
that's what
he's not gonna take you by force. Yeah, that's what she's got to do.
Yep, exactly, and it's smarter for her to do it that way. I mean, she is so sort of intelligent with her sort of like manipulations, right? Cersei's style is all about like overt blunt instrument,
blunt force,
brute force. Whereas Marjorie is kind of like, oh, it's time to get what I want. How about a little giggle right here, just the right time, and a little nudge here and a little nudge there. You know what I mean? And I think. As we talk about playing this Game of Thrones Season 1 callback to the discussion with Ned and Cersei, it's like, what style do you think is going to be the most successful? And think about that a little bit. So Cersei's the blunt instrument. Marjorie is like the giggle little nudge. What about some of the other power players? Like, how would you classify Stannis' approach, for instance?
I think he comes off as a very strong leader. And he feels morally correct, so he's coming in with the moral, like, this is leading my people, and I'm here to bring you to prosperity. So I actually think he could be a leader that people respect, even though we've seen behind the scenes that he's doing it a dastardly way. But I think people could get behind him.
So that's Stannis.
He'll probably
Casey,
die though.
Casey, how would you classify Daenerys' approach? Like, what's her style in playing the game?
I think Daenerys' problem is that I don't think she's trying to understand the people that she's trying to rule, and I think that's a problem when you're dealing with. And it goes back into this idea of colonialism. It's like you come from one place, and then you come in and try to lead a people that you don't understand. You basically come at it with your sense of values and your sense of morals and social complexities, and it doesn't apply there. And so, at this point, I'm for this whole like that battle pits that this guy's arguing for. Like, she's like, no, it's horrible, it's horrible. It's like, listen, if the frickin' slaves are saying they want to fight in the pits, let them fight in the pits. Aren't you basically doing exactly what they were suffering? Like, not letting them do what they want to do? Like, and nobody is stepping up and telling her this in a way that she understands. So I think I've never really been in her camp. I haven't been in her camp in a long time, actually. So I'm not really And Stannis actually, the scene with his daughter in the past episode, like, I teared up because I was just like, oh my god, we've never seen this side of him. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, maybe, and it ties into the Cersei thing where every character is complex. You're not going to have someone who's all good, except I guess that's supposed to be Jon Snow, who's less complex than everybody, which I guess makes, he's the least interesting to me. Yeah, I like the fact that these characters are really dynamic, and you have to kind of weigh their good and weigh their bad, and decide which is more powerful and which makes them a better leader. And that's something we should talk about, though. Actually, I don't know if you're going to bring that up. Is Jon Snow turning down his opportunity to get his name back, get the Stark name back, and being elected the leader of the Night Watch, which is unexpected.
Big turn of events there, right, Steven? I mean,
I mean, I was kind of surprised he didn't jump at the chance, but at the same time, I think Casey's right that he's a less complex character. He's just sort of one-minded, like, I made a vow and I will stick to that vow, blah blah blah. He's sort of predictable in that respect, but at the same time, at least he's sticking to his guns and everything, but it makes him less interesting.
Right.
I was just kind of wonder, whatever happened to the crippled Stark boy? He went into a tree and he disappeared. Did he?
So there was an announcement. So the thing with this is, at the end of last season, they reached the end of Bran's storyline in the books.
Yeah.
So they were way ahead of the game. So there is no more like Bran stuff written on page anywhere. Right. So that's where the books have parked him at this point. So there's no Bran, no Hodor, none of that storyline will be in this season at all, is my understanding. Right. So I guess we're not going to see till next season.
Yeah,
a lot of people.
There's too many other storylines. Yeah, I mean, there's just too many other storylines that are intriguing, and that one just wasn't, because it was just a lot of them traveling and then running into people and then keep on traveling. It kind of became really repetitive, and so I think taking a break from that is fine if they can come back with something really compellingly written to see where that goes.
I just was curious because they said like Sansa's the last remaining Stark because they don't know that Arya's still alive. And,
right. Everyone else is.
But they don't know Bran is still alive also.
Right, because what's-his-face said he burned them alive when they were really just like villagers' children. Yeah.
Right, back when Reek was known as Theon Greyjoy.
Reek, Theon Greyjoy. Oh, that reminds me, a little tidbit that might tie into our podcast, since we're gay men. Apparently there was a gay porn site that has a scene between two performers that have fake names, and I think it's like, one of them is Theon, and the other is something like Tyrion or something. They're both Game of Thrones names, and so I was like, "Oh, Game of Thrones is getting into is bleeding into the porn industry, the gay porn industry too." Yeah.
Which reminds me, in second to last episode, right? We had that scene in the brothel where Tyrion is kidnapped. Yeah. And there's the whore that's dressed up as Daenerys Targaryen walking around in her like assless, chinos or whatever the hell she's wearing.
Right. Yeah. I thought that was great. It was kind of like, oh wow, so they even have self-referential stuff.
Oh, totally.
In that show, where it's kind of like, we're gonna mock our own culture on this show and not just let everyone else do it. I thought that was really clever.
I wonder if you have to pay her extra to say Dracarys at the moment she goes over the edge.
I bet.
Probably.
Yes. I imagine she demands top dollar.
It would be awesome. Yeah. She would totally like walk into the room when it's time for your time with her, and she'd be like, take off your clothes. I'm the mother of dragons, queen of the Andals.
No, she's saying like, oh, is that a dragon in your pants, or are you just happy to see me?
Oh my god.
She's the mother of dragons, all right.
Oh my lord. Yikes.
Oh goodness. So what's going to happen with this Tyrion Dany storyline? Because at this point, right, Daenerys has lost all fucking control, right? Sir Barristan Selmy is dead. like she was, he was her closest advisor. Now that Jorah's gone, like she is royally fucking fucked.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I mean, I guess Ser Jorah is bringing Tyrion to her. Now we know that, right? It was
Right.
a little ambiguous at the end of last episode, but now we've confirmed it. I mean, do you think he's going to be able to save her from herself? Will she listen to him?
The problem with her is that I would think that after that experience of, executing someone in front of everybody and that huge uproar against her would have woken her up. But if that didn't wake her up, I don't know that, Tyrion showing up and her former advisor who's in love with her showing up is going to wake her up. I think she's too dead set in her ways. People have been feeding her the Kool-Aid about her being a queen and the chosen one and all this shit, that she's kind of like she's kind of worse than Cersei at this point, because Cersei has this like regal thing, and she's like, well, I'm born to the manor and all this stuff, and Daenerys needs a little bit of humility, I think, to realize, okay, like I can be wrong, I can make mistakes, at this point she has too many yes men, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that'll.
I hope so. I think it could be rather epic. I mean, she has the presence, she has the beauty, you know what I mean? But I think now she needs the wisdom and the strategy, and Tyrion could totally bring that to her. I just think she's so headstrong that, I really wonder if she would be able to kind of take his counsel. Did you guys see the preview for next time?
I did, but I don't remember anything about it.
Did you see it, Steven?
I did. I just remember seeing Tyrion's face look up and seeing a dragon fly over.
Totally.
That was great.
And that was one of the season 5 promotional posters, right? Was Tyrion like on the bow of the ship as a dragon is like, coming up from the mist. And so I'm super pumped for that. But my question is like, why doesn't she have anybody fucking like training her dragons? You know what I mean? Like she has all these Unsullied. Whip the dragons, like do something, like figure it out. You know what I mean? Like she needs to fucking get those things working for her again.
Well, that's the thing. I think she once again is like, well, I'm the queen of the dragons. They have to do what I say, and if they don't, well, I can't control them. Shove them in the thing. It's kind of like someone who can't control their dogs. Okay, take them to a shelter. I don't know what to do with them. Just go. I'm just like, okay. It's she's kind of like. At this point, she kind of reminds me of Joffrey in a way. Not like this, not because of any sadistic thing, but it's just like when you think that you are right because you have royal blood in you, and that you're not but you don't have an idea what to do, and so you have advisors and you don't listen to what they say. It's just like
Well,
she needs to wake up.
Part of me is like frustrated with her, I guess, because she goes around calling, part of her title, Queen of the Andals, whatever, something of, the unburnt, right? We saw when the dragons were born, she got in that fiery funeral pyre and was not burned. So why is she afraid of the fucking dragons, like, blowing fire at her? Like, she can't be burned.
That's a good point. I completely forgot about that, and I guess that the makers of the show have assumed that we've forgotten it too, because they act like, oh my god, she's in mortal danger every time she's down there with them. It's like, wait a minute. You got a good point. You bring up a great point, Mr. Harris, and I completely forgot about that. Now I'm calling bullshit on this show.
Maybe dragon fire is different than regular fire? I don't know.
Oh, good point, Steven. You saved it. That's a good point.
Maybe. I don't know.
That makes sense to me.
I would really like to just see them sort of address that at this point. Like,
one of them do it and her hand gets burned. It's like, oh, I thought I couldn't get burned. I guess I can with dragons.
Or it blows fire. She gets caught in it and realizes she's not burnt, and then she like looks up at the dragon, shakes her head and walks up and slaps it. She's like, you know what I mean? Yeah, totally. Yes. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
But I just, I'm feeling frustrated at this point because if we don't do something more with these dragons, I feel like it's a promise in season 1 that at this point is just totally going nowhere at this point, right? So who knows? I guess
Well, I think at this
we'll
point,
see.
her bigger problem right now is the fact that she can't control her citizens. Like,
Mhm.
I think she needs to control. She needs to figure out how to control the humans around her first before she controls the dragons. I think they're a bigger. The people are a bigger problem. But I do agree. It's kind of like, oh, that's right. The dragons were locked away. Like when she went to go visit them, and then we see it in the preview. I'm like, oh, okay. So there's the one that's still around. That's a good thing. Yeah.
Right.
So.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens there. I think she definitely needs Tyrion's prowess to kind of get these Myronese people, back in the palm of her hands. But
Right.
let's talk a bit about the Sansa thing. You guys brought that up earlier, and I think it's interesting because none of this stuff is apparently in the books for Sansa. Her storylines apparently are so divergent from this; it's not even funny. Littlefinger's like, "You've got to get revenge." Like, what is she gonna do exactly to get?
That's the thing. She's not clever enough to do anything of this by
Right.
herself.
Yeah.
I mean, is she gonna poison Roose Bolton like at dinner? Like, what exactly is Littlefinger expecting her to do?
What if she did, sort of smarten up and used her sexy ways to sort of influence him to maybe like kill his own father or something like that? At least in this world, pussy can be a very influential thing.
Right.
Especially
So
if
maybe
it's perfectly trimmed, like all of the women's are apparently.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point.
She could maybe manipulate him to doing stuff that she wants to do, and maybe compromise the stability of their stronghold so that it falls.
Maybe. I just don't think we've ever seen Sansa wield that kind of sex power.
Yeah, no, I agree, but
she's still a virgin, isn't she? Because she never had sex with Joffrey.
Right, or Tyrion for that matter.
Right.
In the previews, I think there's a shot of her having sex with him, so I think she gets her cherry popped.
Well, maybe she'll discover her power next week. Who knows?
Yeah. Maybe.
But,
Littlefinger has a plan that he laid out for her. It's kind of like, well, this is what's going to happen, and he gave her these two scenarios, and in both cases, she came out on top. I was like, yeah, but there's always a third case scenario in case either of those fucks up.
Yeah.
So if she's not able to save herself in that third case scenario, whatever that may be.
Right.
But I think his plan is for her to he tells her is to get
Wardeness
back
of the North.
as Wardeness of the North. I'm like, okay, but seriously, yeah, people are gonna respect her. It's like people respecting Tommen. It's like, come on, she's as toothless and powerless as Tommen. So if she's Wardeness of the North, then that'll just seem like the North is easily conquerable by anybody.
Well, but here's the thing: her being Wardeness of the North isn't so much to inspire fear from people outside the North; it's to unite the North. You know what I mean? Behind Stannis.
In a united front.
Right. And she has that Stark name, and people in the North have said they won't be ruled unless it's by a Stark, and so there's a lot of potential for power there. We'll just have to see if it really plays out the way that Littlefinger is trying to make it play out. But I don't.
She might be more. He might be a better figure than Jon Snow would have been if he had taken that decision, because they'd be like, well, he's not really a Stark. Stannis just made him a Stark.
Right.
To feed into what he wants, whereas Sansa is a Stark born and raised. So
yeah, exactly.
But,
exactly. Well, guys, I know we have several other shows to talk about this week. Any other final thoughts on Game of Thrones, or are you guys ready to move on?
I think I'm ready to move on.
Yeah,
ready to move on.
All right. Well, then we're going to leave the world of Westeros behind, at least until we revisit it again, and move on to a little MeTime TV. I still have no idea what to use as a drop for this segment. I don't know if you have any ideas. Let me know what it could be. Maybe I don't know.
You just sing a jingle like MeTime TV.
All right.
That's it. That's totally it.
Whatever that one. Yeah, do that.
Do that again.
Oh God. MeTime TV.
Do it without Casey laughing. I need a clear version of you doing that so that I can drop it in.
Oh God.
MeTime TV.
Yes, perfect. You're doing it. That's it. That's it. You are singing the jingle forever on now.
Oh, God.
Good.
Awesome.
I was gonna suggest some campy library music or something. That'd be fun. Like Ren and Stimpy music.
Yeah.
That could be good. That could be good too. Maybe we'll switch it off. But I like our little jingle.
We'll put it in the background. Yeah, put it in the
Maybe
background.
we'll put a little musical like interlude, like after he sings it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That could be an option. So, all right. Well, here we go. Some MeTime TV. I will kick things off here. This segment is really all about what we've been watching sort of personally lately. Shows, whether they're new, whether they're old, that have kind of got our interest as of late. I have been Netflix binge watching the hell out of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. So
Nice.
I don't know. Did you guys ever watch Deep Space Nine at all? Are you Star Trek
Never.
people?
I was a Voyager fan. I was a Next Generation fan.
I was Next Generation fan. Yeah.
Yeah.
But not Deep Space Nine.
Ah, okay. Well, for me, it's one of those things where this show was one that people didn't really like glam onto sort of immediately. It had a much darker tone and feel than like Star Trek: The Next Generation, which was always like bright and airy and puppies, kittens, and rainbows.
Yeah.
Whereas Deep Space Nine was fucking like killing people, and there was war, and really dark and gritty. But I think it actually has surpassed The Next Generation as my favorite of the Trek series. And having just finished watching Next Gen on Blu-ray, I was like, oh my god, now I have to go back and watch Deep Space Nine for the 5th time through. And so I've been kind of jumping around a little bit. I just started the 2nd season, and I forget how much I really, really like this show. If you enjoyed Next Generation or Voyager, Steven, if you've not seen Deep Space Nine, now's a great time to go back and check it out.
Yeah, I may. I've heard the same thing from other people that it's like you have to give it a chance, because I always thought it was like it's a space station. Like I want to see exploration and going to different worlds. I don't want to sit here in a political thriller, but I've heard it's much more than that.
Well, see, they set it up in the very first episode. The space station is near the mouth of a discovered wormhole that connects it to the opposite side of the galaxy, the Gamma Quadrant. And so they're constantly sending ships through to explore this whole other part of the galaxy no one else has gone to. And they find like big, bad, crazy enemies on that side, barbarians at the gate, and it launches this whole like thing. There's lots and lots of exploration. I had the same concern. I remember being 12 years old, reading in a magazine, Star Trek magazine, that this new show was going to be set on a space station, and I was like, that's going to be fucking boring. That's going to be terrible. But there's plenty of exploration, Steven. I think if you give it a couple seasons, I mean, it takes a while to build up. You might really enjoy it.
Okay.
But, might be worth checking out. But that's me. That's my first pick. Casey, what's yours?
Mad Men, which I'm much more. Which comes on every Sunday night after Game of Thrones, which is probably why I'm not as. I don't look, on Sunday nights. I do not look forward to Game of Thrones as much as I do Mad Men, because the show is wrapping up. It's really getting really down to the nitty gritty with these characters. And there are a lot. Some of them are going in very sad directions. Some of them are going in great directions. But it's really affecting me very weirdly. Like I dream about Mad Men throughout the week. Because it's weird to say goodbye to a show that you've been so obsessed with. And I watch the show in its entirety up to the most current season that's available once or twice a year. So I mean, I love the show. It's like a good book. I just keep going back to it. And it's so good this last season. There's only 2 episodes left. This coming week, and then next week is the finale, which I'm hoping is going to be 2 hours, because there's just too much stuff to to wrap up in 2 1-hour episodes. But it's really good, and it's probably my favorite show of all time at this point.
Oh wow!
I just love it so much. It's up there with like Freaks and Geeks and Breaking Bad, I think.
Awesome.
You know,
was
I
much-
got to admit, I've only seen the first episode of the new season, new half season, whatever you call it. And I was pretty underwhelmed. I know we're going to be talking about the finale,
Oh, I
so I
love
gotta,
it.
like, hurry the fuck up and catch up. I'm dropping a lot of F-bombs this week.
Oh, are we? See, I
I am.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just me personally. But I definitely need to hurry and catch up before we get there because, yeah, it's the end of the end of an era, right? I mean, I got to get on it.
It is. I can tell you without any spoilers that the thing with the waitress goes in interesting directions, but doesn't. It doesn't become overbearing. Thank God, because that was an issue I had with the first episode. I was just like, don't introduce somebody new now. Like, we don't have time for this shit. Like, there's too many characters to wrap things up with. But no, each episode gets better, and this last week, I was just like. I was blown away because one character's path is just like completely obliterated, and I was just like I had a lot of trouble sleeping that night. I was so upset. I was like shaking in rage. I was so mad. But yeah, it's the end of an era. It's the end of my favorite show. So.
Yeah.
All right. I have a question, Casey, and then Steven, I promise we'll get to your pick.
No.
Casey, do you think the series is going to end with Don Draper jumping off the top of a building?
No, I don't.
No.
I don't think it's going to end with anybody dying. Honestly, we're not getting any unless it's Roger because he has a heart problem. But other than that, no, I don't see.
You're just thinking of it to mirror the intro, Brian?
Yes. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. Well, lots of people have theorized about that, but I think that's too spot on.
Yeah.
If Don does die, I think it will be in a different, more interesting way. And I think Matt Weiner said in an interview somewhere that before he even finished writing season 1 of the show, he wrote the ending, and it was the most depressing ending he could think of. But that was years ago, so he could have changed it. But it's funny because in the last episode there was a scene where Don was like testing. He thought he heard a giraffe, and he was testing the glass in an office. In his office, and I was like, "Oh God, is this like a nudge, nudge, wink, wink at the opening credits?" Because the way that this past week's episode ended, there's no way that that's going to happen. I can tell you. So.
All right. Well, we shall see.
We shall. Yeah.
Steven Heslin, what's your first pick?
My first pick is Veep. It is. I love this show so much. It's a show that isn't a laugh a minute sort of thing. I mean, it's definitely a ton of laughs, but they you can tell a lot of it is sort of improv, and they kind of have outlines and they just go with it. And I even heard a recent interview with the guy who plays Jonah, and he was saying that a lot of their episodes end up being an hour and a half long, and they have to cut them down to half an hour. There's just so much that they just go off on, and so. It's definitely something that, like sometimes you're like, wait, what are we watching? Like, where are we here? But it is so, when it hits so hard and funny, and is one of the only comedies that I laugh out loud at. I mean, literally, last night's episode, the one I watched last night from the weekend, I can't remember what part it was. Maybe it was the part about when Jonah was describing what was happening to him with other people in the room.
That's right.
I was hysterical at the same time. It was just so funny. There's other funny moments in the show, but it's just each character is hilarious and funny, and they own it, and it's just great. I love it.
Yeah, I do too. So good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, Casey, you're a big fan of that show too, right?
I am. I love it. It's but of course it comes on the same time as Mad Men, so I have to watch it later. It's really funny. The writing has not let up. It's really been strong for pretty much the first 4 seasons. I think each season's gotten better actually.
Yeah.
But just every character is like perfect, and every actor is perfect in their part. And there was a really good scene this season where Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Tony Hale finally exploded at each other, and It was just like it was really tense and dramatic, and then it became really outrageously funny. Like it was,
Nice.
it has that nice balance sometimes because you've known these characters now enough. That's kind of nice to see that sometimes they still have some affection for each other because they work together, more than they spend time with anybody else, even at their own houses. So,
Right.
yeah, it's like a weird functional family. And,
Gotcha.
it's great.
Nice.
I'm so glad you watched it, Steven. I wasn't sure if. I wasn't sure. I don't think I know that many people who watch it. So
I know it's not a very popular show, but it's just I think it's so great, and I mean it gets awards and everything, so I know people respect it, but it's just it's definitely worth checking out, I think.
You guys are Veep buddies. Aww.
Yay!
Yeah. BPs.
BPs.
There you go. Nice. All right. Well, next up for me, my final pick is The Flash. Oh my God, Casey, I know you're not watching this anymore. Steven,
I
have
need to start watching it again. I hear good things.
Oh, it has gotten so phenomenally good. Steven, have you kept up with it?
I'm caught up, yeah, and it's definitely better. Still not my favorite, but definitely better.
Yeah. It's interesting for me. This season of Arrow has been a big letdown for me.
Yeah, I kind of agree.
Yeah,
really?
I'm so over this season of Arrow. Like I'm just like,
oh no.
When like the stuff with your guest character of the season, Brandon Routh's Ray Palmer, is like more interesting than the stuff with your main like protagonist. You know there's an issue, and so now it's almost like The Flash is a big breath of fresh air for me because it feels like there's just a lot of new stuff happening there. I like some of the Arrow crossover stuff, some of the best parts of Arrow crossover, but it's really coming into its own, I feel, as a series. Like, there's only 2 episodes left at this point, tonight's and next week's, which blows my mind. I don't know what I'm going to do with no new Flash to watch, all summer long. But I just have become such a big fan of, what they're doing, how they're doing it. In fact, when I went to see the new Avengers movie this last weekend, Quicksilver is in that movie. He is a super speedy character. The whole time I'm thinking, Flash did that better. Yep, Flash did that better.
Wow.
Nope, try again. Flash did it way better. And they do it on a TV budget, like visual effects wise.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Right. And this is like a fucking $1 billion blockbuster movie, and they have cheesy, stupid, super speed effects that look god awful. And I'm just like, how can a TV show top you in that regard? Really?
Yeah.
But I mean,
I think the TV show at this point has more to lose because they have to bring it every week. Avengers, everyone's going to go see it regardless.
Yeah,
that's a fair point. Tonight's episode, it's been in all the previews, all about Gorilla Grodd, big giant gorilla that is like sentient, and I am so pumped. Like as soon as we're done recording, I'm gonna go eat Chinese food, which I hear Jim ordering in the other room right now.
Oh, good.
And watch some Flash. I am super pumped.
We'll get some fried wontons for me.
I will. So, Casey, what's your final pick?
Well, first, I do have a question because my brother still watches the show, and so I hear him watching it. But he is so vocally over this whole romantic bullshit between the Flash and this girl that he grew up with. And it's just he's like, oh, I don't care about this. This is boring. Like, I don't care about this. Has that? How is that balanced with other stuff on the show? Is he complaining loudly over something that isn't that big a deal on the show, or has it become overwhelming?
No, they make it every episode. It's in there, and it's just like, oh God, we know. Like they're just drawing it out and drawing it out. Like just get.
That was kind of one of the reasons. That was kind of one of the reasons why I stopped watching. I was just like, I don't like this romantic interest. I don't care, but I do want to play catch up because I heard it's improved, which is a good thing. Unlike Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which,
I would say, I mean, those elements are definitely still part of the show, and I'm not a big fan of them either. But they're not as played up as they were in like the first 5 or 6 episodes. There's definitely some of that. And sometimes, Steven, like you, I'm kind of rolling my eyes, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, can we get back to Captain Cold, please? Like, I don't care about Iris fucking West. Like, let's just go. But the focus isn't as heavily there. as it
Right.
used to be. I feel.
Huh.
But yeah, it's definitely a detractor from the good stuff, I would say. But,
Speaking of Agents of Shield, I don't know if you guys are still watching, or you. I know you're not watching it, Casey, but I don't know if you had started watching it again.
I watched the first 3 episodes after the Christmas break, but I haven't gone back to it yet. And I wish that I had, because apparently there was a big tie-in to Avengers.
Oh, well, that's what I was about to say. It
Yeah.
was the stupidest tie-in ever. Unlike
really?
last time,
Uh-huh.
when they tried to really, almost the whole storyline kind of fed into Winter Soldier, and it was
Mhm.
really cool how they worked up into it, and it really kind of tied in. This one, they're going along this regular storyline, and then right in the last 30 seconds, there's this character that supposedly has some precognitive abilities. Goes, I see a bunch of robots taking over the planet, and then the episode ends, and it's just like,
Oh,
my
really?
god, are you fucking serious? Like,
Oh, wow.
so stupid.
So I gotta ask, have you guys seen the new Avengers movie yet?
I have not.
Okay, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but I gotta ask, Agents of Shield, did it have anything to do with like Loki at all?
No, not at all.
Or like?
Oh wait, they saw the scepter. She saw the scepter. And said these robots are coming, but it was only the last 2 minutes of the last episode.
Okay, gotcha.
Before the movie came out.
Because something happens in the movie, and the group of people that I was talking to about it afterward, they're like, "Oh, it was all explained in Agents of Shield." And then on the Movie Bears podcast last night, we reviewed Avengers, and a couple of the guys were like, "Oh yeah, that was totally explained in Agents of Shield." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I guess I missed a whole episode that must have explained what happened." But now you're saying it's the last 2 minutes. So
I mean, I have to see the movie to see how the tie-in works, but I mean, it seemed like, she saw the scepter and she said this thing, and it was really quick. It was very shoehorned in.
Okay.
Like I said, jumps over to this thing. I'm like, where are we? And then tied into the movie.
All right. Well, I'm sure I'll go back and catch up on it eventually here. But yeah, that's disappointing to hear. But
yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, Casey, what is your surprise pick? You were being really cagey when we asked before the show. You were like, "No, it's a surprise."
You guys are gonna be blown away by my coolness.
It's not that cool. It's just Inside Amy Schumer.
Oh, okay.
I love that show.
Yeah, I really love it. I don't like this season as much as the past 2 seasons, but it's only 2 episodes in, so I mean. But yeah, Amy Schumer is
lemonade around the corner fudges me.
Yes, and that is so great. The first episode of this season opens with this rap video parody, which would apply to straight men and gay men, because it's really the whole fetishization of the ass. Really just ties into the fact that you're fetishizing something that we shit out of, and I think she does it in a really clever, funny, weird way, as she does everything. Yeah, I think she's really funny. I've loved her for forever, and my concern is that the season will get progressively less interesting because she keeps going down the same road in terms of different kind of feminist issues that she's not really tackling in as funny or surprising ways. Last season, she had a really good sketch where a girl decided to play her boyfriend's it was Call of Duty or something, and she decided to be a woman, and the woman the woman avatar in the video game is raped by a fellow officer and can't go forward in the game. She has to fill out all, she wants to report it. Are you sure? This guy is a family. Are you sure you want to do this? Then she has to fill out all this paperwork. Then she goes to court, and then he's found guilty, but then it's overturned by his commanding officer. So it's it's funny, but it's also really okay, this is fucked up because it's true. This is what happens to women in the military. See The Invisible War if you want more info on that. But yeah, she's really funny and edgy, and it's after Broad City left the air. Seemed really soon too. That season didn't seem to last very long. It's good to have funny, ballsy women back on Comedy Central, because they're really kind of bringing it in terms of the funny these days. I think of I think I know more women that make me laugh than men at this point. So, she's brilliant. I love her. So Inside Amy Schumer, definitely one to watch.
There you go. Well, Steven, speaking of ballsy women, why don't you lead us into your pick?
My second pick is RuPaul. I'm watching all season. I've watched it since season 1. I love the show.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's just campy fun, and there's certain seasons that have been stronger than others. This one hasn't been the strongest season. Season 7. There's definitely something up with it. They changed a lot of the format. They're not doing Untucked as a TV show. You have to watch it online. They changed the judges up. They got rid of Santino, which I don't care. I didn't like Santino anyway. And I like Carson Kressley. Yeah. Oh, really? I don't think he's worse. I think he's a little bit better. And so it's been a little different. Hope she makes it pretty far.
Who? Which one's your favorite?
Ginger Minge.
Oh no, Steven, we're gonna have to part ways here. She is horrible. She is so bitter and nasty and rude.
She is bitter and nasty. No. I don't like her as a person a lot of times. Yes, but I think she's one of the more talented people.
I would agree. I will give her that. Yes. My favorite is Katya.
Whereas people like Katya, yeah.
Steven, Google Plus is acting up on us. You keep kind of breaking in and out, I think. Did we lose Steven? Oh no.
Or it's your Wi-Fi. Tell hubby to stop downloading stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Unless it's hot bear porn, in which case we will sacrifice.
Go ahead. Yeah, exactly.
For hot bear porn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that what? Hot bear porn? What? Am I back yet?
Yeah, you're back now.
Yes,
there we go.
All right, good.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
Casey, you and Steven are going to have a war over Ginger Minge. Is that right?
Yeah, we're fighting over Ginger Minge, as every gay man should.
Yeah.
No,
I do like Katya. When you said that. Yeah.
Yeah, I do love Katya. She's my favorite.
When I thought of war and Ginger Minge, immediately I had this mental image in my head of like Jon Snow's girlfriend, Ygritte.
Oh yeah,
Melisandre, the Red Woman, like going to battle against each other.
Oh my God!
How awesome would that be?
That would be awesome.
But Steven, I do agree with you. There is something awesome. What I've noticed as a fan, because I watched the season 1 too, is that the even seasons are the better seasons. So 2, 4, and 6 have really been the best seasons so far. And
totally agree.
This season is weird. I think they've lost a lot of their budget from sponsors.
They've lost some sponsors. Yeah.
Yeah, they're sponsored by like Nasty Pig this year, which is like bottom of the barrel.
Exactly.
Yeah. Don't like Nasty Pig.
Even their pit crew has like got a downgrade on the pit crew. It's
wait a minute. I gotta ask before we lose anyone associated with Nasty Pig who may enjoy the show.
We don't have any sponsors.
Well, we don't have sponsors, but I mean, what's wrong with Nasty Pig, Casey?
I mean, they had Scruff last year. Scruff is a considerably more popular and it's a larger part of the zeitgeist than Nasty Pig. It's like, okay, so if we're gonna get like a kind of a gay, sexually oriented sponsor, Scruff is a good one to have. To go down to Nasty Pig, which is like a retail outlet for like jocks and stuff. Listen, I have some Nasty Pig jocks. I'm gonna be honest, but when I see a Scruff sponsor, I think, okay, wow, like they're gonna get some money. When I think Nasty Pig sponsor, I'm like, I don't know what kind of money they're dealing with this season. Yeah. It makes me suspect. I mean, they used to be sponsored by Absolute Vodka, and they're not anymore.
Exactly. And MAC Cosmetics. There were lots of really big name sponsors, and now they're sort of. I don't. And now it's like Boy Butter and.
I don't think I heard anything after Casey said he wears Nasty Pig jock straps. I think
sorry. For special occasions, I have like 3 or 4.
That's awesome.
I'm a patron of Nasty Pig. I just don't think that they're a good sponsor for a show that's popular in the game.
So you would just prefer to see a sponsor that maybe is a little more sensical, I guess, with the sensibilities. Right.
Or a sponsor that brings enough money to let the show do interesting things, which they haven't done. Like Gruff gave some considerable money because they had the drag queens woofing at everybody, which really pissed me off, actually.
So let's bring him back as a sponsor.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, if they're bringing money,
but
an exciting thing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, how do you feel about moving on to some plugs?
Let's do it.
Sure.
Yes. All right. Casey, you've got like 5 plugs, right? I think?
I only have one. Just one this week.
What?
Yeah. We already did 2 plugs in MeTime TV, so I'm fine. I'm just gonna plug Louie because it's still really funny, and Louie's still really hot, and Barry and Burley, and so Louie is my plug. It's great.
Now, what is the premise of that show?
Louis is basically plays himself. He's a comedian, and it just follows his life in New York and his various misadventures with members of his family. His daughters are really hilarious, the actresses who play his daughters. This season there was a really good opener, which actually he put up on YouTube, FX did, with him, where it's very true if you live in a large city where he had to go to the bathroom while he was out and about, and he doesn't like to use a public bathroom, and it's impossible to find one anyway. So it's like a battle to get home to use the bathroom, and it's like a losing battle. So he's like, it's because he has to go number 2. So he's like, oh my god, I gotta get home, and he has little girls with him that try to help him.
Interesting.
Yeah. Louis good, nice. And Louis hot, so always worth watching.
Yeah. There you go. Awesome. All right. Plug for me this week, because I plugged MBP TV on the Movie Bears podcast last night. I'm going to plug the Movie Bears podcast on MBP TV.
Nice.
This week we reviewed Avengers: Age of Ultron. Jim is actually editing that show to put up on iTunes right now, so it will be available tomorrow. And depending on when you're listening to this, tomorrow means Wednesday. But we had a great show. We had Bill Zanowitz from the Comic Book Bears podcast. Another great show. If you love comic books, totally check them out. We also had Chris Cummins, who writes for Den of Geek. I don't know if you guys read the Den of Geek reviews, but he's a super handsome bear writer for Den of Geek. And anyway, so we had them on. We had a great discussion about Avengers: Age of Ultron. And the show will be out in iTunes, Stitcher Radio, coming out shortly, or on our website at moviebearspodcast.com. So check it out.
Nice.
What? Steven, close us out with your plug.
All right. Well, I've got a personal plug this week. A documentary that I've been helping out with for the past couple years, Desert Migration. We picture locked the other week, and so which means it's going into the finishing stages.
Awesome.
They're going to finish, doing some the color correction pass and the sound pass and all that fun stuff. And I'm getting a full editor credit on it,
Wow.
So it's, I know I was co-editor with another editor that worked on it, and so I've got my first IMDb editor credit.
That's great.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. And they're gonna go the festival route. So if you go to festivals, keep an eye out for a movie called Desert Migration.
Are they applying for South by Southwest, Steven? Do you know?
I don't know. I'll keep people updated once I get clearance on what festivals they're in and when it's playing. I'll mention it here. But
awesome.
Great.
But yeah, it's really exciting. I can't wait to kind of get it out there.
That's fantastic. I would so love to see that movie at next year's South by Southwest.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
That would be phenomenal. That would be totally great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, I think that wraps us for this week. I, as usual, have enjoyed the hell out of talking to you guys about Game of Thrones and all these other shows. It's funny. Like, there's all this stuff that we want to watch. Time is the factor sometimes in checking all these different things out. So I like this MeTime TV segment because it just gives us a chance to kind of talk about things that we're enjoying, but maybe we don't all collectively have time to watch.
Exactly.
And so it works out pretty well. Next episode, though, we'll probably, gosh, I don't know if it's going to be next week or the week after. We'll talk about that when the show's over. But Mad Men is ending soon. I'm sure we may want to talk about that. Steven, you're pretty far behind, though, on Mad Men, right? You're like
am.
3 seasons behind.
I might have to do some cliff notes or something.
Wait, I thought you were like pretty caught up. Didn't you just have last season to do?
No, I'm like 2 or 3 seasons behind.
Oh, I thought. Yeah. Oh, I was totally misinformed. Okay. I was like, oh, because when I messaged you earlier, I was like, oh, just sit down and watch 7 episodes.
You're like, power through it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
No, I
saw that. No, I saw that, and I'm like,
if I had known it was more than 1 season, I wouldn't have been like, hey, just do it, dude. I thought it was like 7 behind. If it's like, no, if we're talking like 3 seasons, unfortunately. It's just, not time to do it.
I saw that in our chat thread, and I'm like, wow, Casey just told Steven to watch like 45 episodes of Mad Men.
I know, I had no idea. I seriously only thought he missed last year's 7 episodes. So I was like, just do it.
He was like, it's okay, there's no pressure, Steven.
I know, I apologize, because I thought it was just 7 episodes you were behind. I had no idea.
I think your exact words, Casey, were, sit the boyfriend down and tell him we're watching Mad Men and just power through it.
It was, because I thought it was like 7 episodes. Because I thought it was 7 episodes. I was like, you can do that in like a Sunday. It's fun. Just do it. And no, if we're talking like 32 episodes, then there's no way.
So here's what you do, Steven. On Sunday, sit Sean down at like 6 o'clock in the morning and be like, we're watching 30 episodes of Mad Men today, honey. Are you ready?
Oh my god.
In 24 hours.
That's what I do when I marathon that show, but that's not. Yeah, if you're that far behind, then that's. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's like. Yeah, it's too tough to play catch up then.
Yeah,
I totally
definitely. Well, we'll figure out what we're doing, and we'll come at you again soon. We promise. Thank you so much. We've had some of you hanging out with us tonight. You've been kind of quiet. What's up with that? We see you. Hello, I see you right there, the bottom corner of my screen. But alas, no comments. That's all right. You must enjoy hearing our thoughts, and you know what? We appreciate that. We think it's pretty cool that you tune in, to listen to what we think. But we also want to hear what you think. So feel free to send us your comments. Comment on the video, comment on Facebook, whatever's easier for you. We would love to hear from you. Have a good week, everyone. Take care. See you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Watch TV.
Enjoy TV.